Have you been following the vinyl tag controversy this month? What we've got someone in the Pacific Northwest who I don't know has put together vinyl tag 2025 after Rob Walker decided several weeks ago that he wasn't going to compile a list of questions for us to do this time. And it seems to me that the tag was put together with the encouragement of other people in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm going to say more about them later, and particularly Norman Maslov's channel. So just bide your time. And it seems like they got together and thought, well, a bit of encouragement to a friend is, why don't you put the vinyl tag together and come up with 20 questions? Well, I think the controversy is twofold, really. One, well, threefold. Threefold. It came out too early. So it seems that's a genuine consensus, despite the fact that people are doing the vinyl tag as kind of requested or suggested. That's absolutely fine. It came out too early. It was released by someone who'd not been very active in producing videos in this year. So the video apparently appeared out of the blue. And the third issue was... What was the third issue? Oh, yeah, Rob Walker, who'd kind of decided that he wasn't going to do the vinyl tag this year, went off on one on a live stream. And that's got all the controversy kind of thing. For me, I'll do the vinyl tag 2025. I'll do it probably after the turn of the year, seems to be the usual one. But it got me thinking about what do we get in this vinyl community out of vinyl tags? Well, firstly, a lot of people, myself included on occasion, struggle to come up with ideas for videos. So having someone set a series of questions is a really, really good idea. So whoever started it way back when, that was well done to you. And well done to everybody who's participated over the years. I think that's been absolutely great. I think also the questions suggest, rather than just show up your favourite albums of the year, which is kind of a bit of a dull set of questions in my judgment, I think it asks people to come up with stories, kind of share a little bit of their history, and also maybe give a little bit more of themselves, so you get to know who these people are and what angles they go for, or what they prefer. So I like that idea. I like the idea of kind of just you give a little bit of yourself in these, and it's more interesting. And over the 2 years I've done the vinyl tag, 23 and 24, during that period I've got to know quite a number of people, and a small number I talk to on occasion, and so far a smaller number still that I've met in person, but I'm looking forward to meeting more in 2025. So I'm a great supporter of the vinyl tag. But anyway, I did 23 and 24. I realised, simply because of this controversy, that people had put together the vinyl tag in preceding years. And I thought, wouldn't it be good to go back to 2019, 20, 21 and 22 and see what questions are posed in those vinyl tags and pick out 20 great questions that are not included in this year's vinyl tag. And I thought, well, yeah, let's do that. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to list the questions so people get a chance to do this as well. And you could consider it a little bit of practice before you do the 2025 vinyl tag proper. So, as I say, I'm going to do the 2025 vinyl tag. There's a CD tag come out as well. I'm going to do that one. There's a soundtrack one. I'm going to do that one. But I've picked 20 questions from 2019 through to 2022 because I think if you haven't done a vinyl tag before, why not have a go at this one? Or why not go back and have a go? Anyway, I'm prattling on. Sorry. Right. And I'm calling it Vinyl Tag Redux. So 20 questions. First one, question number 1. What holes are you looking to fill in your collection? Now, I am looking, and this is for vinyl, so I've got some CDs. I want this album on vinyl because when I was a young teenager, a good school friend of mine back in the day got me into Genesis, and through Selling England by the Pound, Tangerine Dream, and believe it or not, Grand Funk. And I've not been able to find a copy of this that I'm prepared to part a modest amount of cash for. So there's probably loads of them hanging around in record shops in the US and Canada. So I want that one. I also want a copy of this one, Secret Wish by Propaganda, on the ZTT label. Now you can see this is a double CD set. I want the vinyl. Again, I see them around occasionally, but they're typically battered. So I want a good copy. I want Dream of Life by Patti Smith. I absolutely adore this album, but I didn't get it on vinyl at the time, and because it's deep into the CD era. So I want that one. I also want one more. I want VU by the Velvet Underground. I love this album. I think it's a collection of previously unreleased recordings, and I absolutely adore Temptation Inside Your Heart. Absolutely fantastic. Right. So that's what I'm looking for. They're not really grails, but they're good examples of where I'd love to get a vinyl copy. Question number 2, favorite double album. I've tried not to include live albums here because I could have done, but I've gone for the album that had the biggest impact on my appreciation of this artist, and I saw the tour. I saw a couple of gigs on the tour, and that is The River by Springsteen. And this is the album I bought way back when with the hype sticker still attached. Does it say you can remove that? The sticker is removable. I think I found as I started to peel it away, it started to fray a little bit, so I didn't do that. But this is an absolutely fantastic album. It's full of filler. It has these cheesy rockers that kind of grate after a little while, but it's got some absolutely beautiful examples of the way Springsteen kind of speaks for the common man, speaks for the people going through difficulties and so on and so forth. And it's before he became that muscle-bound rocker that was on the front pages of all the music press in 1985. I think it was 85, following Born in the USA. But this has got the beautiful Independence Day song for his father. It's got The River itself, of course, the title track. Point Blank is amazing, tragic. Stolen Car, similar. The Price You Pay, for years my favourite Springsteen song. Drive All Night, and Wreck on the Highway. So that's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful double album. And if you've got an open mind about Springsteen, and nobody has in 2024, surely you've got to give that album a try. Right, question number 3, a 10-inch record. I didn't want to go for a single because that was kind of obvious. I've gone for this one. I'm not sure how well it's going to show on this video. It's Pure Reason Revolution, Cautionary Tales for the Brave. Kind of a indie come prog band of the last 20 years. They've got some obscure releases, some strange releases, 10-inch singles, CDs. It's strange in that the same tracks appear on different types of releases alongside different other tracks. And the famous track on this one, which is not listed anywhere except on the label, but I urge you to hear it if you're open-minded about this, is The Bright Ambassadors of Morning. A little bit Pink Floyd-ish, but a bit more kind of indie in sounding. Quite quietly epic, maybe. And I think they got a little bit more heavy on a couple of other albums, which I've got on CD, but they don't get a lot of play. What else have we got here? I Was There, a band I've seen. I've seen loads of bands. But the most... I don't know whether it's a unique memory or not. There's 2 memories that spring to mind. One, I saw The Clash on the busking tour. after Topper had gone and Mick Jones had gone, and this was the Cut the Crap lineup. But they did a busking tour of the UK, and I used to hang out in a record shop. I think it was called Volume Records in Newcastle. And the Clash were travelling on public transport. I got the tip off. They were playing the station in Gateshead, which is just across the water. Me and a couple of mates went across, hung around, no tickets, just got in. And then the Clash walked out on stage and did a set. I don't know whether it's like a half an hour, I just can't remember. The most notable memory is that whoever was playing drums for them was using a school chair and a cardboard box for the rhythm. But it was absolutely great. And this was in 1984, 85. And I had got my first car, and it was a beat up Mini, little white Mini that was more rust coloured than white. And I offered a lift to Joe and Paul to their next gig, which was in Sunderland down the road, but they politely declined. They were really nice guys. They politely declined and said, we're public transport only. That's kind of the ethos of the tour. So I don't know how they would have fitted into that Mini, but never mind. And the other thing that was kind of, I was there, is when Genesis did their first Nebworth Festival, and I was there for the sound check. I went down the day before with our little group from the northeast, and we went to just inspect the arena the day before, and we walked in, and the band were rehearsing, sound checking, and they actually cut a video that was kind of one of their official releases. They did the video for Many Too Many from the album, and then there were 3, and we appeared in miniature form on a documentary that was put out by the BBC then. And we got to kind of say hi to the band and stand next to them and all that sort of business. So that was really nice. So yeah, two great memories there. A discography you own all the major releases of an artist, or an artist you own the most of. Dylan. Whole pile of Dylan down here. I'll put a picture of this up there so you get to see. And I've got everything on CD as well. Question number 6. Preband, an album or band that featured someone who went on to being famous. Now, I'm not sure about being famous, but this is the great Sandy Denny in the 1967 recording with the Strobes, Dave Cousins of the Strobes. And this is before she went on to Fairport Convention. And this has got the earliest version that I've ever heard of Who Knows Where the Time Goes on it. So yeah, it's a really good album. I listened to that just the other day. Her voice is great. It's beautifully recorded. It's fantastic. It's on a budget label, Pickwick. And in places it sounds like, because she doesn't sing on every track, in places it sounds a little bit like Crosby and Nash. When Dave Cousins sings, which again is not on every other track because there's another guy in the band. That's the very distinctive Dave Cousins vocal as well. That's well worth. If you like Strobes, if you like Fairport Convention, if you like Sandy Denny, got to get that one. Right, question number 7. The music book or movie you'd recommend. This is a book I picked up in the last couple of years, and that is In the Court of King Crimson by Sid Smith. Now this is pretty big. This is the story of King Crimson, but it also goes through track by track on each album and selected mini essays on selected concerts that they did over their career. If you're interested in King Crimson, that's definitely well worth picking up. Recommended price £20. That's going to go out of print at some point, so if you're interested, go for it. Right, that was question 7. Question 8. Where are we? Question 8. An album you bought cheap that's now worth money. Well, I don't know how much it's worth, but I bought this when I was a member of a record club back in the 1970s, and that is Buckingham Nicks, the duo album they put together before they joined Fleetwood Mac. And that, again, is a good album. Favourite drummer? Well, Phil Collins. The great Phil Collins. This is him with Brand X. He was the go-to drummer, session drummer, workaholic, particularly in the 70s and the 80s, because Genesis, the time period between each Genesis release was getting longer and longer, and he was just a workaholic who just wanted to stay active, and he's a fantastic drummer. Now, I'm not a drummer, but the feeling I get when I listen to Collins compared to a lot of other drummers in the kind of prog genre is that he's got something about that propulsion in his playing that he's really distinctive. It's not the drumming is not an afterthought on records, tunes that this guy plays on. It's really quite front and center would be overstating it, but it really drives the tracks forward. Anyway, I love Phil Collins. So that's number 9, favorite drummer. Number 10 is a trilogy of albums, 3 solid albums back to back from the same artist or band. And I'm going to pick the first 3 albums by the magnificent Blue Nile. And this is the debut, A Walk Across the Rooftops. If you don't know the Blue Nile, think yearning vocals from Paul Buchanan. You have like keyboard washers. Sometimes you get this insistent rhythm in there, but it's kind of understated. Has a great late night feel about it. So that's a brilliant debut. Fantastic album. Still play it today. The second album, Hats, which has got the wonderful downtown lights. And then the third album, this was released on vinyl only in recent years because it was a CD only release, and that's Peace at Last. And this has got the absolutely gorgeous Happiness and Family Life, which are must hear if you like the Blue Nile, but you haven't heard that album. Okay, an album that needs a vinyl pressing. I'm going to show 2. One is from an artist I've long loved, and I think this is a wonderfully recorded album full of great songwriting and wonderful singing, and that is Come On, Come On by Mary Chapin Carpenter. Absolutely fantastic album. Wonderful. I'd love to get a vinyl copy. And from the new wave of Americana that came around in the 1990s, this is an album I'd love to get on vinyl as well. It's the band 16 Horsepower and Secret South. Dark, gothic, brilliant vocals. Fantastic. So yeah, if you know anybody who really can make vinyl albums, I'll have those 2, please. Thank you very much. A girl group. A band I saw in London. Is it the Astoria? It's not there anymore. And that is the Donnas, Spend the Night. Think of AC/DC maybe? Guitar-based rock. Really good, energetic. It ain't punk, but it's got that edge. It's really good. Really good band. Really like it. A punk album, or the closest thing you have to it, and this is the singles album by 999. And you see what I did here? This is a genuine punk album because I bought it and it didn't have a cover. So I managed to get a spare cover from a record shop of a Blue Oyster Cult album, which I can't remember the title of, although it might say on the edge here. I know I've blanked it out on the spine. But Blue Oyster Cult fans will know that album. But they're 999. I don't really know that album. I haven't played that album that much over the years, but there's two great tracks. The first one, Nasty Nasty, and then Emergency is really great as well. So there will be punk fans out there who will know 999 infinitely better than I do. But yeah, that's been sitting in the collection all those years. The first album or band you first saw live, and this is the very first concert I attended by anybody, and that is The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis, Newcastle City Hall in April 1975. Notable for me, not just because it was the first album, the first concert I'd ever been to, is that by the time I got to the concert, I'd bought every Genesis album except the debut, up until Selling England by the Pound, and I didn't know anything on this album apart from the single Counting Out Time. So this was new. I bought this the week after the concert, so imagine being kind of confused and perplexed, but in awe of all the noise and the visuals, and the fact that, when I think back now, the band at its absolute height of its powers, absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's my original copy. On the Charisma label. So let me show you that one. So there you go. There's the Charisma label there. The famous Charisma label. Literally the famous Charisma label. So yeah. It still plays okay. Doesn't jump or anything. A little bit of surface noise, but not too much. Right. Nearly done. Album in the shrink. I've got this one, which is the 50th anniversary collection by 1963 by Bob Dylan. And I've got this in the shrink because I think it was a very limited release, like a copyright release from Columbia to make sure that the stuff wasn't bootlegged. But I'm not sure, I don't know whether these tracks eventually appeared on some of the bootleg series, but this has got 6 LPs in it. Still in the shrink. Look at that, eh? Nice Bob Dylan collectible. Question number 16, an album from a different continent. And that is from Mali, Salif Keita. Keita Sorrow. Now, I don't really know this album that well. I've had it for a very, very long time. But it's kind of what you would imagine. It is got... I don't want to talk in cliches, forgive me, but it is literally, it's about that African rhythm that's kind of fast, it's inventive, sounds great. I mean, I played this last week and I thought it's still great, and I've got a couple of his albums. And I used to buy albums of world music, mainly influenced by the Real World label, Peter Gabriel's Real World. Right, question number 17, an album with at least 8 people on the jacket or cover, and that is Men Without Women by Little Steven and the Disciples of Soul, the debut album. I think, how many we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 band members. Great album from a great band. Number 18, a favourite, not the favourite, but a favourite soundtrack album. And that is a Hans Zimmer Inception. A great movie. One of my favourite movies of more recent years. And this one is on clear vinyl. There you go. Look at that. Very nice. Very nice. Unfortunately, the pressing isn't the best. So a bit too much surface noise for my liking. But there you go. Second last question. An album with no writing on the jacket or cover. Struggled with this one because this one's kind of embossed, but it's Nowhere by Ride. Now this album, can you just see it? You see embossed there? You might be able to see it, but anyway, that's brilliant album cover, good album. And finally, the question: your favourite VC experience and/or advice for people contemplating music videos. Okay. Well, I don't want to say you want to be yourself, because that's just a rubbish thing to say. But I think you've got to be, if your intention is just to unload and just say, I want to talk about my music, that's absolutely fine. But I think if you want to, who am I to say grow your channel? I don't, there's some people out there got huge numbers of subscribers, but anyway, this is kind of what I would recommend people do. Well, be enthusiastic. Mean what you say. Mean what you say. So don't just say stuff because you've got to fill in a little bit of time and you're waffling. But no, have a think about what message you're trying to get across. And also, if your job, dare I say it, is to kind of enthuse other people to revisit albums in their collection or to explore new music. I think that's one of the jobs of people who want to make videos in the vinyl community. And don't overstretch yourself. Don't do a rundown of the top 10 albums of 20 or 30 different artists. You can't possibly know all of those artists that well. Stick to what you know. And I just want to say some other thing, because I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I mentioned the controversy over the Tag and this Pacific Northwest crew. Norman Maslow and Rachel Scost and a number of others, the Waxed, Rob the Waxed, and one or two others. I watched I watched a live stream. I've been tuning in, over recent months to Rachel's Ghost channel and the live streams that they put out every day. And Rachel does a really good job of keeping that discussion quite tight, so she'll move it on if it starts getting too waffly. But a lot of live streams, I think, they burn a lot of time because it's like listening into a conversation happening on the next table when you're sitting in the pub, and half of it is a load of waffle and no one's really getting to the point. They're not really debates because there's not really an agenda for most of them as far as I can tell. I don't watch a lot of them also because a lot of them take place in North America, and by the time they go live, I'm asleep in bed. So I see the occasional recording. But I was listening to a live stream last week where there was some criticism of what was termed vinyl community gatekeepers. People who it was suggested that these people were kind of a barrier for people putting out videos and or expressing their opinion in videos. And one person on this panel who was quite vociferous about gatekeepers apparently used to review records and write about records. And he came up with, I can't remember precisely what was said, but and I'll be corrected if it's wrong, but I think he said he used to review 4 or 5 albums a month maybe. And he had a rule for himself that one of the 4 or one of the 5, he would give a more negative review. So he wouldn't let himself get carried away putting with enthusiasm for these new releases. And I just thought, that's the definition of a gatekeeper. Who are the gatekeepers in the music business? Well, they're record companies, they're the media, they're the magazines, they're television, the radio. It must still be, and it must have been desperate for young bands and new artists to try and get past these gatekeepers to get an audience. And it was being suggested that someone like Norman Maslov, and I mentioned it because I don't think he was mentioned by name, but it was kind of inferred very strongly. And there has been some criticism of Mazzy in the last couple of weeks because he's got so many subscribers, 30-odd thousand or something like that. Mazzy ain't a gatekeeper. He doesn't stop anybody from making a video or expressing an opinion. And I'm not a fanboy of Mazzy. For a start, I think he comes across as smug, maybe arrogant. He has a unique ability to insert a Beatles reference into every video he makes or a live stream that he participates in. So he makes the point that only a small portion of his videos are about the Beatles, but there's always a Beatles reference. And I'm not a huge Beatles fan, but I kind of chuckle because what Maslov is really good at is that he is unapologetic about expressing his opinion. And I like that. He's undoubtedly got, he was brought up in San Francisco, access to some of the most legendary bands and artists that we now revere. They were coming through his town all the time. He worked in record shops. I think he worked in the record business for a label. So he has got a lot of advantages. He's not on the outside looking in. He was on the inside. So he's got a lot of knowledge and I like when he does these travelogue videos as well. So as I say, I don't know whether Mazzy and I would get along if we met. Probably not. But I respect his ability to build an audience and so many subscribers. I think it's absolutely outstanding. But he's not a gatekeeper. Like I said, he's not a gatekeeper. Nobody is stopping you making videos. And if you feel passionately about a particular artist or an album, and you're tempted to make videos to put out on YouTube and tag them vinyl community, I'm all for it. All power to you. Just give it a go. So like I say, the key things that I wanted to say is be enthusiastic, mean what you say, but don't overstretch yourself. And then you'll have a lot of fun. So anyway, that's the Vinyl Tag Redux. I'm not going to call it 2024 because it's an amalgamation of 2019 to 2022. So like I've said, have a practice if you want to do it. I'll put the questions in the description below, and I'll see you on the next video, which might be Vinyl Tag 2025. We'll see. Bye for now.